Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am recreating one of my favorite meals from New Orleans, Cajun seafood boil, and this video is inspired by one of my favorite restaurants in NOLA called the Boiled Seafood House. So today I am creating my own sauce from scratch for the first time. So if you want to see how to make your own sauce and you want to enjoy New Orleans at your house, keep on watching this video. For my seafood boil today, I am going to be using 4 different types of proteins. And the first one I have is the king crab. I usually buy lobsters, but they didn't have any, so I got king crab instead. I also purchased Dungeness crab. So whenever it comes to crab, I love Dungeness crab over snow crab because it is meatier, as you can tell. So it has a better meat. So I love Dungeness crab. And I didn't read, and I accidentally purchased some crawfish for the first time, and I didn't read to see that it was seasoned, but luckily it's in this Louisiana style seasoning and it smells really delicious, so I'm not mad at it. And finally, I have some New Zealand, also known as green mussels. I love these mussels over black mussels when it comes to seafood boil because it is bigger, as you can see, and it's also meatier. But one thing I did was, again, I did not read at all. I guess I'm blind. I don't read, obviously. So what you want to do is, so the first box, as you can see it, I'm trying to point out, it says the mussels are in the shell. It says in the shell, which is what you want. You want the green shells. But I just saw the white box and just grabbed a white box. And I accidentally bought a box that only contains the mussel meat only. So make sure if you're purchasing your seafood, you read. And I got all of my seafood from the freezer aisle in the farmer's market. So go to your farmer's market. It is way cheaper than Sam's Club and all these other places. You could also do shrimp, add some sausage, anything you like. But our house, we like those proteins. I also have 5 corn I'm going to break in half, and I also have 6 red potatoes. So traditionally, people use red potatoes, so I have red potatoes. So for my ingredients, I have 2 lemons, 1 onion. I'm using 2 fresh bay leaf, but you can use dry bay leaf, and a handful of thyme, some brown sugar. Usually with all the dry seasoning, I'm using 1 tablespoon of each, some Lorry's salt, some lemon pepper seasoning, some paprika, I can't speak today, Old Bay, what else? 1 stick of unsalted butter. Make sure it's unsalted, okay? Make sure it's unsalted. Don't play yourself. And I have this better than Bouillon, I think that's how you say it, lobster base. And I have the Tony's Creole seasoning. I also have the Louisiana Cajun seasoning. And lastly, I have some salt, but I think I have garlic, yes. And I'm going to add minced garlic because it's way easier to use. So right now, I have a huge pot of water. I have a lot of seafood, and I'm just putting in my handful of thyme, my fresh bay leaves, my onions. I'm squeezing in all of my lemon. And then what I did over here is I put all of my dry ingredients except the salt. I'm going to do that last after my pot boils a little and all the seasoning starts to mix up. So now that my pot started boiling, I just tasted my water to just see the salt. And now I am adding more of that Old Bay Lorry salt. And also now that's when I'm finally adding the actual salt in it so that my seafood would be salty. So initially I use 1 tablespoon of everything. 1 tablespoon of everything, and then afterwards when it started boiling, I tasted it to make sure. And of course, the amount of seasoning you put inside is going to depend on the amount of water you have and the amount of seafood you're cooking. So make sure you taste your water. So once my salt is perfect and the water is boiling, I'm gonna start adding my corn and my potatoes to the water, and I'm gonna leave my the potatoes and the corn there for a while, probably like 40 minutes, because you want your corn to cook and you want your potatoes to be soft. So once the potatoes are like 90% done, that's when you start adding your seafood, your crab and everything into the water. So always check your potatoes. That's going to affect the cooking time. So while the potatoes and corn are cooking, let's start our sauce now. So we're going to start with some garlic. So use about 10 to 15 cloves, 2 whole onions. I have 1 tablespoon of cayenne pepper, but if you don't like pepper, don't put it in there. But yeah, so some cayenne pepper. What else surprised me? Unsalted butter. So 4 sticks of unsalted butter. Please make sure it's unsalted or your seafood will be salty. Half a teaspoon of some ginger powder. You can also use some fresh ginger if you want to, but I just used the ginger powder. 1 tablespoon of this voodoo seasoning. It's very similar to cayenne pepper, so you can substitute it easily. You don't have to go buy the voodoo seasoning. I used the Louisiana Cajun seasoning. It was very salty, so I wrote down that you should get some salt-free Cajun seasoning. And I didn't end up using the Tony's because it was so salty. It would have made my sauce so salty, so I just canceled Tony's. The River Road Cajun seasoning, it's salt-free, so I like it. So I use a lot of that in my sauce since the Louisiana Cajun seasoning was salty. I use 2 cups of chicken broth, but feel free to use some water. If you don't have some chicken broth, you don't have to, but it just adds flavor. 2 tablespoons of some paprika. You can add more paprika if you want to. Again, the sauce is just based on your taste. 1 tablespoon of Old Bay. Old Bay has a lot of salt, so that's why I only have 1 tablespoon. I use this lemon pepper, but it was so salty. So I will insert a brand that's salt-free so they could use that for yours. For Lawry's, I didn't end up using it. Again, it's seasoned salt and my food already had so much salt. So the correct measurements of everything I use will be listed in the description box below. So just use this section to just see how I cooked my sauce. But I initially started with 2 sticks of butter, but later on I realized I needed more. But melt your butter on medium heat, and once it's melted, that's when you're going to add your onion. So here I use 1 onion, but going forward, I'll be using 2 onions so I can have more sauce. Then add your garlic and cook that for about 5 to 7 minutes on medium heat. And once it starts to saute and starts browning, then you start to add your chicken broth. But you can also use water, but I love using chicken broth for more taste. And cook that saute the onion with the chicken broth for 10 minutes. And after that is when I started adding my dry ingredients. So I can use a lot of more tablespoon of the dry ingredients as I wanted, because I realized some of the seasonings were very salty. So going forward, I'll be using a lot of salt-free options that I'll be listing below for you to follow as well. But yeah, so add all of your dry ingredients. But I like to put my brown sugar last. I like to just taste it to see if I want to add more sugar after I added all of the other savory dry ingredients. But once you add your dry ingredients, cook for like 5 to 7 minutes and just turn it off, and that's it. Here, that's when I realized I needed more sauce, so I added more butter, which made it 4 sticks of butter. I added more chicken broth to make it 2 cups of chicken broth, and I squeezed some lemon again for that freshness and that flavor. So once I did that, I had enough sauce and I just turned off my fire. Once my potatoes were 90% done, that's when I started adding all of my crab. So I put my crab and I leave my mussels for later. So I cook my crab for 15 minutes. And after that 15 minutes, that's when I add my mussels. And the mussels only need 7 minutes to cook. So after you let your mussels cook for that 7 minutes, remove your crab and all of the mussels. And that's when I'm going to put my crawfish, because the crawfish I purchased was already cooked and it was seasoned, pre-seasoned. So I didn't want the crawfish seasoning to get to my other seafood. So that's why I removed everything else to put the crawfish. But I only cooked the crawfish for 8 to 10 minutes because it was already cooked. And this is the cooked crawfish I'm taking out of the pot right now. And that's it, guys. That's how you make your own seafood boil. This is what everything looks like when it's cooked. The crawfish, we have our sauce, and then again all of our other proteins and our corn and our potatoes. So now it's time. I just took some of our proteins like the seafood and some of the potatoes and corn, and I'm just gonna just drown it. Just put a lot of sauce. I love sauce, guys, and this sauce tasted so good. My dad loved this so much, and if my dad eats seafood, then you know it's good. But yeah, so just season, just pour the sauce all over your seafood, cover it, and here we go. And this is the final result, you guys. It was so delicious. I was really proud of myself. I really enjoyed the sauce. But if you love this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Next week, I'll be making another seafood, a traditional seafood boil. But yeah, this is it. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.